Now we're moving on to pronoun agreement, one of the major errors you'll see on the SAT. Now, in order to understand this video, if you haven't watched the other previous pronoun videos, you might want to. Obviously, if you know a lot about pronouns and you kind of understand the rules already, then maybe you don't. But a lot of what I'm going to say is going to be will build off of those previous videos. All right, so first example. A student might want to determine their major before starting college. What is wrong with the sentence? Well, the subject of the sentence, as we can see here, is a student, so that's singular. Might want, that's conjugated fine, singular verbs, to determine their major. Okay, so here's a pronoun or a possessive pronoun, possessive adjective. It's got to agree with its antecedent, which in this case is the student. This, however, is plural. So actually, if we were to change this, should change this to something like his or her. The reason why we don't pick his by itself or her by itself is obviously for kind of gender issues. So most of the time on the SAT, you would see a correct version would be his or her. So it should read, a student might want to determine his or her major before starting college. His or her, of course, is the singular version of this pronoun because it's connected with an or. Therefore, you've got two singular subjects connected with an or. The compound subject, if you could call it that, the disjunctive subject, I guess would be the proper term, would be singular. So therefore, this is a singular pronoun, goes with a singular verb, singular noun. Therefore, that's pronoun agreement. Next one. People who want to do well on the SAT must dedicate his or her time appropriately. All right, so again, we see another pronoun. This, again, is a singular pronoun. What is the antecedent? Well, the antecedent here is people. People is plural. Therefore, we're going to actually have to change this to their. People who want to do well on the SAT must dedicate their time appropriately. So this illustrates one of the really big things you'll see on the SAT is this using either the plural pronoun their or they, or the plural pronoun his or her or him or his or her or he or she. He or she. Anyway, so the pronouns must agree. And one of the big tricky things about this kind of error is that often, particularly this first sentence, this is something we say in spoken English. So I might say, a student might want to determine their major before starting college, whereas in that case I'm using their as kind of the gender-neutral singular pronoun. And that's gotten some favor in, I guess, the circles of people who care about these issues deeply. But regardless of any debates about what pronoun you're going to use in these situations, SAT takes his or her to be standard, even though most people might agree that his or her is just very awkward and clumsy to write and to say, especially if you've got to do it multiple times in a piece. But anyway, on the SAT, his or her is right, though. That's what counts. The town is well known for its hospitality. They always try to make visitors feel welcome. Okay, so even if you've got something that may be considered a compound or a collective noun here, it's still going to follow the same rules that we talked about with verb agreement. So here the town is acting as one entity, and we can see actually the beginning clause here is conjugated correctly, right? The town is. So that means, and as well, we have another possessive pronoun, its. The town is well known for its hospitality. This shouldn't change even though we've got the semicolon here. So when we say they always try to make visitors feel welcome, well, it should be it. Even though that sounds weird, it always tries to, and then this, of course, should be tries. It always tries to make visitors feel welcome, right? Even though it sounds kind of weird there, that is the pronoun you're going to use because it's going to replace the town, which is its antecedent. Next question. Every student should bring their books to class. Okay, now, we talked about this in the indefinite pronoun section. Every, though actually this is not a pronoun here, it's more of an adjective describing student. The point still stands, though, that every student is going to be singular. So therefore, any pronouns or verbs should also be singular. So here we have their. We're going to have to change this to his or her. And I think this one is one that we hear a lot and we say a lot. Every student should bring their books to class. And again, we do it partly, I guess, because we don't know the rule, but also because, again, his or her is just awkward to say. And a lot of us want to use their as kind of the gender-neutral singular pronoun. But for the SAT, it's got to be his or her. Next question. Each of the great theories of physics are known for their complexity. Again, each is going to be singular, regardless of this prepositional phrase, which, of course, is plural, right? The great theories of physics is plural, but this is a prepositional phrase, and it's not going to affect the conjugation of verbs or the declension declining, I guess, of adjectives, or I should say, of pronouns in later parts of the sentence, in the predicate, in the main part of the sentence. So, therefore, if this is singular, this is going to have to be is. So, I'm kind of mixing errors here a little bit. On the SAT, they won't do that. You're just going to have one error in a sentence, unless, of course, it's a improving sentence. But anyway, so it's going to have to be each is, and then this pronoun is going to have to be its. So each of the great theories of physics is known for its complexity. And another tip you might find useful is if you're kind of struggling with figuring out if these kind of indefinite pronouns are singular or plural, you can kind of cross out prepositional phrases and see how it sounds. So each is known for, not each are. All right, next question. If you want to learn SAT grammar efficiently and effectively, one must learn what is actually tested. Okay, so this one is not necessarily a pronoun antecedent error, but it's a pronoun consistency error. Notice in the first introductory, I guess that's a subordinate clause. In this opening subordinate clause, you have you as the pronoun, or the noun, the subject. Notice then in the second part of the sentence, we have one. You can't mix up pronouns like this. You'd have to be consistent. You either have to say, if you want to learn SAT grammar efficiently and effectively, you must learn what is actually tested, or you can use one. You could say, if one wants to learn SAT grammar efficiently and effectively, one must learn what is actually tested. Generally, I think the SAT, they will use one because it sounds weird. It sounds stilted and kind of fancy. English, or at least American English, does not really use one that much. British English, I think, uses it much more. But that's why we're going to use you. But that still means, even if you have one, it doesn't mean one in itself is wrong. It's just, is it consistent with the other pronouns in the sentence? In this case, it's not. So if this were the one that were underlined, we would pick it. Or if you were underlined here, we would pick it. Because one, the one that's right is going to tell, the one that's not underlined in a sentence is going to tell you what the other ones have got to match up to. All right, last one. Those who stand up for their political beliefs do it from a sense of patriotism, not sedition. Okay. This one is a little bit harder than the rest, and you're not going to see this as much as the other pronoun errors. But what I want you to do is, whenever you see the pronoun it has to be very clear what that pronoun is referring to. Because it can often be kind of a dummy pronoun, or it can be kind of vague. You're not quite sure what it refers to. So let's see. Those who stand up for their beliefs. Okay, that looks fine, right? Those is a pronoun here. Those who stand up for their political beliefs. Okay, there, it's plural, no problem. Do it. So it, what is it referring to? Well, it would be something like standing up for political beliefs, but that's not in the sentence. That antecedent is not in the sentence. We just have kind of a verb phrase. So this it actually would be wrong because it's not really standing in for anything in the sentence. It's rather vague what it might represent. So if we were to change it, we would change this to so. Those who stand up for their political beliefs do so from a sense of patriotism, not sedition. And this is kind of an idiomatic thing here as well. Again, you don't see this kind of error often, but if you ever see it underlined, just be very careful. Make sure it's actually, standing in for something else. All right, so those were the major pronoun agreement errors. And next we're going to move on to a few more classes of pronoun errors that you might see, and then we're going to move on past pronouns into other topics.